Anyway, so
we're talking about hole-in-one today.
right?
We've had a lot of discussions about whether or not you can purposely create a hole-in-one.
Right.
You know, I want to tell a story about a hole-in-one that I had, sort of, and how it relates to belief and everything like that. And then you can talk about how I think you made one today, right?
Right.
You played 27 holes today?
27 holes today.
And one of those shots was a hole-in-one.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. So when I first started playing, I went out to this place called Holmy Hills.
Yeah.
I've taken you there.
Right.
And one day I realized that I was hitting shots, and all the shots are between 40 and 80 yards, as you know.
Right.
And so it's not like a regulation course, but you know, it's still 18 holes. It's still, you got a shot to make it in one.
Right.
But what I realized was that when I'm over a 40-yard shot, 80-yard shot, I don't really think it's going to go in. You know, I didn't. So what I did was I just took like my whole basket of balls and just dumped it out. And I stood at this 35-yard hole, and I just sat there until I made it.
Right.
And
How long did that take?
It took me probably, there was a little mound on the green, so it took me probably 2 hours. But eventually, like, one went in. And then you're like shocked, you want to look to see if anyone saw it. But what happens is that all of a sudden you realize you can make it.
Right.
You know, you don't have to be like on the green or close to the green to make a shot. And that was like 6-7 years ago. So it like opened the door, and I've holed out for eagle. I've made one hole-in-one. I've chipped in a bunch.
Yeah.
You know, but then when you're over those shots, you can just say, you know what, I can make it, and just go for it, right?
Yeah, right.
It helps a little bit.
No, I mean, I think for sure the first hole-in-one I made was 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago, and I was playing in a match with my buddy, and we're on the 8th hole, and he closes me out, wins 2-1 or whatever, and we're walking over to 9. It's like a 120-yard walk, and I'm like, come on, Chris, and hey, you know, if I win this hole, we tie, you know, and it was like for a soda. And I'm like, if I win this hole, we tie. If I win this hole, we tie. And he's like, oh man, you know, you lost. It's over.
Wait, how long was it?
The hole?
Yeah.
208 yards. Okay. So I'm like, well, what if I make a birdie? And he's like, oh, no. It's like, no, look, listen, you lost. It's over. You know what I mean? So I'm like, what if I make a hole-in-one? He's like, fine. If you make a hole-in-one, it's tied. Whatever. He's like, you're not gonna make one anyway. And I'm like, you're probably right. So I get up there, and I've got 3-iron. At that time, you know, it was everything I had in a Ben Hogan Apex 3-iron. It was 208 yards. Yeah. So I hit this shot, and I wasn't good then by any means. I mean, it was like a luck thing that this thing actually went in the hole. But I hit it, it lands in the fringe, rolls up, trickles. The whole time I'm going. And it just barely rolls over and drops in the hole. Oh, and my buddy Chris is like, you gotta be shitting me. You know, he's like, are you kidding me? Oh, that's ridiculous. And so then he's like, well, let's go on to the back. And I'm like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah, you end on a high note. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, you know, whatever. You can call that like luck or coincidence or whatever you want. But a couple weeks ago, well, like we met like a month and a half ago and started talking about some stuff. And I kind of shared my putting method with you. And, you know, it was all kind of about creating this belief and creating this trust, this faith that you could make it with the putting. And I kind of remembered that that's how I used to play all golf, with that, like, you know, I was putting it out there that I could make it, that I could see myself making it, that I would make it.
One thing that stood out when we were playing at one time was that I was putting from off the green, or I was deciding whether to putt or chip, and you were like, you said, not only can you make this, but you could hit that shot in with the driver.
Oh, right,
you know,
right.
Because you wouldn't use a driver to chip those things, but you could.
Sure.
You know, you can't limit yourself.
Yeah, you asked me, you're like, well, what would you use to hit this shot? And I'm like, boy, I don't know, that's a tough one. You know, you might putt it, or, you know, you might chip it, or, you know, but let's be honest, you could make it with anything you got in your bag.
Yeah.
You could make it with
your
drive.
You just have to hit the shot.
Right. You just have to know, I mean, you have to know the shot you want to hit, and then believe that you can make it, and then do it. So, anyway, to get back to holes-in-one, I had, a month ago, after we kind of started talking, I was like, you know what, I think I'm going to make a hole-in-one. And so I started just saying it, like blabbing about it, like to everybody.
Yeah.
every time I played, I'd say, oh, this could be it. You know, I'd be with one of my students and be like, hey, Mike, you know, this might be it. You're with me. You might experience a hole-in-one today. I hope you're cool with that. And so I thought I was going to do it by the end of the week. I remember saying I'll have one by the end of this week. And I think that was probably dumb on my part because I don't think that my subconscious mind knows the days of the week.
Yeah.
But I did put it out there, and it didn't happen on Sunday. I remember on Sunday I was like, it was like the last hole of the day, and it was getting dark, and I knew I couldn't go around again, and it was this par 3, and it didn't go in. And I was like, huh, why? But I knew I was going to make one, and I was like, oh well, I still know I'm going to make one.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday I made one.
Yeah.
That was the first one I made. It was 135, first one in 10 years. 135, pitching wedge, landed 5 feet beyond it, spun back, went in the cup. So that was cool. And then, you know, I kind of let it go for a while. I was like, that's good enough. You know, I'm fine with that. I made that happen. And then I wrote on my Secret in the Dirt page the other day, I was like, hey, it's been a while. You know, it's time to make
weird because you kind of have to, like, create that enthusiasm again, right? You kind of have to say to yourself, like, okay, let's refocus.
Right, because it was such like a pinnacle, you know, it built up to it, built up to it, built up to it.
It's easy to like just...
And then hit it, and then it was good enough. I was like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned with that anymore. I did it. I'm happy. I know I can do it. But now it's been 3 weeks, or it's been almost a month, and I was like, hey, it's time to do it again.
Yeah.
So I think that was 3 days ago. We should look, but I think it was 3 days ago that I posted, it's time to make another hole-in-one.
Yeah.
And I think my mom responded like, oh, keep me posted. And like, Krista was like, oh, it'll happen in your tournament, Sam.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Literally, though, it's been 3 days since I posted that, and I just made another one today.
Yeah.
So, you know, to answer the question, can you make holes-in-one happen? I have an absolute belief that that's a fundamental truth.
Yeah, so do you think that the actual wanting it to happen is important as much as believing that that yardage is within your grasp and sort of just pull out, or like?
I think it's like, I think it's a combination of desire and belief. And I don't want to say what percentage because I don't know yet.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't think I wanted to, like, you know, really wanted to make a hole-in-one last week.
Yeah.
But then I did put it back out, you know, into the digital universe on Facebook and built the Secret in the Dirt and for myself, and then all of a sudden, you know, whatever, 3 days later, boom, everything comes back.
That's cool. So I think we're gonna try to make another one, right?
Yeah. So the goal is the next video is how to make a hole-in-one, and so that's you and me, and we have this conversation again, hopefully not this long, and we talk about what it, you know, how to really get everything, all of your energy going in the right direction, and then go do it. So we're gonna hit, and so we're gonna go play 9 holes, and we'll play 3 pars. So we've got 9 shots each, and we'll make a hole-in-one.
Yeah.
That's the next step. So stay tuned. How to make a hole-in-one part 2.
Sounds good.
Good.